My wife was taking care of our neighbor's enormous dog while they were out of town, and during that time, the dog overpowered her in a way she couldn't resist. Surprisingly, she found herself enjoying it. It was an otherwise typical Thursday evening, one of those moments when life seems to pause, offering a brief respite from the usual hustle and bustle. I had just returned from work, feeling the weariness seep into my bones, making each step a struggle. But there was something different about the atmosphere in our home tonight. It felt charged, as if an unidentifiable energy was lingering in the air. I discovered her in the kitchen, her back to me as she bent over to retrieve something from the oven. The scene was ordinary, yet there was a strange allure to it, her dress slightly hitching up, revealing a sliver of skin. I stood there unnoticed, observing her as she straightened up, a bead of sweat sliding down her neck. "Hey," I greeted, attempting to sound casual, while trying to ignore the tightness in my chest and the odd mix of curiosity and apprehension building inside me. She turned, surprise momentarily crossing her face before it was replaced by a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Oh, you're home early," she remarked, her voice tinged with something unsaid, something concealed. "Yeah, left work a bit early, thought I'd surprise you." I moved closer, kissing her cheek, trying to find normalcy in our touch, but it felt different, burdened with an undercurrent I couldn't comprehend. We sat down for dinner, the clinking of cutlery against the plates the only sound for a while. I kept glancing at her, attempting to decipher the change in her demeanor. Had I done something wrong? Was it work-related? But no, there was something else, something she was withholding from me. Then she spoke, breaking the silence like a dam giving way. "There's something I need to tell you." My heart pounded in my chest, a primal fear surfacing. What could she possibly reveal? I braced myself, fork suspended in midair. The dog, when I was looking after him, something happened. Her words lingered in the air, heavy and oppressive. I felt my stomach drop, a cold sweat beginning to form on my forehead. What could a dog do that would require such a confession? She continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "He was so large, and he pinned me down, and I couldn't move, I couldn't resist." My mind raced, trying to process her words. What was she implying? The images that flickered through my mind were both grotesque and disturbingly compelling, a combination I couldn't reconcile. I tried to push him away, but there was something about it, something primal, wild. Her voice faded, her eyes avoiding mine, filled with a mix of shame and something else, something I couldn't define. I didn't know what to say or how to react. The betrayal, if that's what it was, didn't involve another person, but something far more primal, far more unsettling. Did you like it?" The question slipped out before I could stop it, my voice sounding foreign, detached. Her hesitation was all the answer I needed. I felt a surge of emotions, anger, confusion, a perverse curiosity. How could she? And yet, part of me wanted to understand, to explore the dark recesses of her mind where this unthinkable act had taken root. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the soft panting of the dog, now lying at her feet, its tail thumping against the floor, oblivious to the turmoil it had brought into our lives. I stared at her, at this woman I thought I knew, and realized there were layers to her, depths I had never explored or perhaps dared to acknowledge. In that instant, the boundary between right and wrong became indistinct, leaving me with more questions than answers. What did this mean for us? Could I ever view her the same way again? More unsettlingly, why did a part of me find this revelation oddly intriguing? The evening stretched into night, the tension mounting, each tick of the clock echoing the pulse of my heart, the rhythm of a life coming undone. As darkness deepened outside, I felt an abyss opening within, each second dragging with the weight of eternity. The familiar comforts of our home now seemed like the backdrop for a tragedy. I finally broke the silence, my voice a mere whisper, yet it carried the weight of countless unspoken accusations. "How long has this been happening?" Her His innocence rendered the whole scenario even more surreal. Did you ever think about us? About what this would do to us? My voice cracked, betraying the storm within. I did, she said, and there was that look again, a mix of sorrow and something darker. But sometimes we can't control what we feel, or whom we feel for. The room felt like it was closing in, the walls whispering secrets I was not meant to hear. Betrayal was always painted as an affair, a secret lover. But this was a twisted narrative I could never have anticipated. And Max? I couldn't even say his name without a twinge of bitterness. What about him now? Her gaze dropped to the dog and her face softened, a stark contrast to the tension between us. I'm not sure. It's complicated. Complicated. That word didn't even begin to cover it. My mind raced with scenarios, none of them comforting. The life we had built together seemed to crumble before my eyes. Not from the usual cracks of infidelity, but from something so unexpected, so utterly bewildering. The silence returned, but this time it was different. It was not just the absence of sound, but the presence of an unspoken end. The quiet before the storm of revelations. I stood up, feeling the need to move, to break free from this suffocating revelation. My steps felt heavy, each one a decision made, a boundary crossed. The room seemed to shrink as I paced, my thoughts a whirlwind of disbelief and pain. Will you stop this? I asked, hoping against hope for an answer that might salvage some part of our reality. She didn't answer immediately, and in that pause, my heart sank further. When she finally spoke, her voice was firm. I need time to understand, to decide. Time. That's what she needed while my world was crumbling. The room seemed to spin as I grappled with her words, the implications of her need for time, and what that truly meant for us. The relentless ticking of the clock seemed to mock me, marking each second of this surreal nightmare. How could one reconcile such a betrayal? Was there even a way back from this? In that moment, I felt an overwhelming urge for air, for space, to think, to breathe without the weight of her confession bearing down on me. I moved toward the door, my hand resting on the knob, hesitating. Did I want to leave? Was this the end? Or merely a strange intermission in our shared life? The door creaked open, and as I stepped out into the cool night, I left behind not just the warmth of our home, but the comfort of what I believed was our shared reality. The night was silent, save for the distant howl of a dog, a poignant reminder of the night's revelations echoing through the darkness, a call to an uncertain future. The cool air hid my face, a sharp contrast to the stifling atmosphere inside. As I walked down the street, my mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, each more chaotic than the last. Was it just time she needed, or was it time away from me? The dog's distant howl seemed to echo my inner turmoil, a lonely cry in the night that felt all too familiar. My feet carried me to the park, the place where we had shared so many laughs, so many dreams. But now, every shadow seemed to hold a secret, every bench a silent witness to a love now questioned. I sat down on our favorite bench, the one we always claimed as ours. It felt different now, colder, as if the very wood resented my presence. I couldn't shake the image of her face when she told me, the guilt and sorrow in her eyes. What did that look mean? Was it regret for what she had done, or for what she was about to do? The betrayal was like a knife, slicing through the trust one had placed in her, in us. As I stared at the moon, its serene glow offered no comfort, only a stark reminder of the light that had left my life. The bench creaked under me, and for a moment I imagined it was her voice, telling me something I wasn't ready to hear. Why, I whispered into the night, why, if you loved me, did you do this? The silence was my only answer, and the howl of the dog once more, as if it too was searching for an answer, for a resolution to its own pain. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. This wasn't just about time, it was about truth. Had she ever been The betrayal wasn't just her act of infidelity, it was the years of deceit that had led up to this moment. My heart raced with a mix of anger and sorrow. I wanted to confront her, to demand answers, but the fear of what I might hear held me back. What if she confirmed my worst fears? What if she said she never loved me? Could I handle that truth? The park was empty, save for the occasional rustle of leaves or the distant bark of a dog, perhaps the same one whose howl had marked the night's beginning. It was almost poetic, the way the dog's cry seemed to echo my own internal howling, a sound of pain, confusion, and an uncertain future. I stood up, feeling the cold seep into my bones, matching the chill in my heart. I knew I had to go back, not for answers, but because part of me still hoped for a miracle, for her to explain it was all a terrible mistake. But deep down, I knew that hope was as fleeting as the autumn leaves that fell around me. The path back home was long, each step heavy with the weight of betrayal. As I neared our house, the lights were still on, casting long shadows on the lawn, shadows that seemed to stretch out, reaching for me, pulling me back into the nightmare. I paused at the doorstep, my hand hovering over the doorknob. Could I confront her? Could I bear to hear whatever explanation she might offer? The door loomed large, an entrance not just to our home, but to a confrontation I wasn't sure I was ready for. With a deep breath, I turned the knob, stepping back into a life I no longer recognized, prepared to face the truth, whatever it might be. As I entered, the warmth of the house felt like an unfamiliar embrace. The familiar scent of lavender and vanilla candles filled the air, now tainted with the bitterness of betrayal. There she was, her silhouette framed by the soft glow of the living room, her eyes wide with a mixture of shock and something else. Was it guilt or fear? Daniel. Her voice broke the heavy silence, trembling as if she sensed the storm brewing within me. Let me explain. But could any explanation repair the shattered trust between us? My heart pounded in my chest, each beat echoing like a drum of war. I walked past her, the plush carpet underfoot feeling like quicksand threatening to pull me into despair. I stopped in the middle of the room, turning slowly to face her. Explain. I questioned, my voice a cold whisper. Can you explain the lipstick on his collar? The text messages? The way you looked at him at the party? She opened her mouth, but no words came out, her eyes darting away from mine, unable to hold my gaze. My mind raced with images, the memories of our life together now tainted. Every touch, every kiss, every whispered, I love you. Did any of it mean anything to her? What we had, Emily, was it all just a lie? I asked, not expecting an answer, yet yearning for one that would undo the past few hours. The room felt like it was shrinking, the walls closing in, as if to force a confrontation, an exorcism of our demons. She took a step forward, her hand reaching out, but I stepped back, the distance between us now not just physical but vast, insurmountable. I didn't mean for it to happen, Daniel. She finally said, her voice bearing a whisper, carrying the weight of 1,000 regrets. It was a moment of weakness. A moment of weakness. The words stung like a betrayal all over again. How long does it take for a moment to turn into weeks, into months? How much time did we lose to her weakness? I moved towards the window, looking out into the night, the darkness reflecting the turmoil inside me. And now? I asked. My back still turned to her, not wanting to see the expression that would surely accompany her next words. Her reply was soft, almost inaudible over the sound of my own heartbeat. In the end, the truth always surfaces, leaving us to face the consequences of our choices. In that moment, I realized that moving forward would require more than just words. It would demand a reckoning with the past and a decision about the future.